Doug Franks has to pay an hourly rate to visit his mother, Ernestine. He's part of a growing national movement seeking changes in guardianships.
What abuses are taking place out there you're trying to correct?
Isolation, medication, and liquidation. These are the three things that are the standard with all these victims of probate, for-profit guardianships. The families are isolated so they don't know what's going on. Then the wards, the people that have suffered a civil death that have no rights, are then taken advantage of. And after they're taken financially, and then after that, they are medicated so that they aren't a problem. So it's easy to put someone in front of a TV, give them some pills, and just do your thing.
And you have to pay money to see your mother?
No, my mom, if I had to pay money, I wouldn't be seeing my mom because I don't have $900 to see her for 3 days. My mom has the money, did have the money. She pays $900, $100 an hour to see her children. She tells us all the time, why can't you spend the night? Why can't you stay here more? I don't understand why those two old ladies don't let you do this. This is still my house. But in fact, she has no rights. My mom is a person that has no rights whatsoever and suffered something called a civil death.
And how did she become in this guardianship?
My brother and I had discussions about where to move mom or where to keep her at home. So that was the beginning. My brother wanted to move her to New Orleans. I wanted her to stay in Pensacola. Because of that, my brother did go to a trust manager, and the trust manager said, you know what, your mother needs to be in a guardianship. He gave him the name of the lawyer, and it all just happened as smoothly as it could. My mother had advanced directives, who her guardian was, which was me, whoever power of attorney, who the health care surrogate, all those things were my job. She even went to the Northwest Florida Memory Clinic 2 days before court. The neurologist stated in a letter, Ms. Franks has the capacity to make the decision of who her guardian is and understands the ramifications. All this was given to the judge, along with the advanced directives, at the very beginning stating she doesn't need a guardianship because she has all of her ducks in a row. The judge just said, nope, I'm going to ignore this because this is not the best. And the reason why it's not the best is because it's $1,000 a day since guardianship. That's how my mother has spent over $1 million so far for her protection, $227,000 on attorneys, $250,000 on a home care service that was not licensed to give care to a totally incapacitated person. We brought these things up to the judge, which is the only recourse all of us have, and the judge said, I know where you're going, and we're not going there today. So what do? These new laws will have people, hopefully this new law statute will have someone like a czar that we'll be able to go to saying, look, there's a problem, investigate it. Right now there is nobody. There's simply, we did go to Adult Protective Services. I showed them all the 233 bills, all this information, and what did they do? Doug Franks made a false report, and we think he should be charged with a type 3 felony or a class 3 felony. So, and this happens to all of us. This is called, I don't know if it's called retribution or if it's retaliation, but it basically makes, there's more people in our group or would belong to our group, but they're frightened. I mean, this is a scary thing that people are, you better shut up. If you want any money, if you want to see your mom, dad, shut up.
The Franks family nightmare is being played out in thousands of families across Florida.
They charge to open a letter, $80.
Legislation taking effect July 1st hopes to put the brakes on questionable guardians.
Well, over the past several years, it's become evident that there are problems in the state of Florida with the guardianship laws. There are a lot of great guardians in the state. In fact, the majority of guardians are very good. But there are some bad actors out there that are financially abusing their wards.
How are they doing that?
Well, there's just a whole lot of different ways, but in general, many of these professional guardians have basically created a cottage industry where they have a lot of wards and they overcharge for services. For example, one that we hear about often is they charge to open a letter, $80. I had heard of a case where a guardian was charging a ward for lawn maintenance in a condominium. Then the maintenance was being done by a family member, and then the guardian had their wife as the housekeeper, and it was, just the appearance of impropriety was unbelievable, and this is happening all over the state.
So you would now regulate these private guardians?
Well, actually, we didn't put in a regulation or a licensing. What we did do was we made some simple but important provisions. First of all, there was nothing in law outlining what the duties of a guardian are. Now, the good guardians, you think, they know it and they live it. But we needed to set a series of regulations in terms of what their duty is to their wards. So that was one thing. Another thing that's very important is that if a guardian did financially abuse or exploit their ward, there was really no penalty. So we put in a penalty based upon the exploitation statute we passed last year, that if a guardian exploits their ward, there will be criminal penalties. They can go to jail as opposed to just facing a fine or maybe losing their status of guardian. There were a number of other provisions in the bill, simple things like trying to look very carefully about giving a ward's independence back if they didn't need a guardian. We also addressed the incidence of the emergency temporary guardianships, which was a problem because there were people who were trolling nursing homes to get guardianships and then having themselves appointed. One other thing that's also another simple thing is that there were allegations that some of the judges were appointing their friends, their cronies, as guardians on the good cases, i.e. the ones that have a lot of money. And so we put in a provision that when a court is going to appoint someone as a professional guardian, they have to say why they chose that person, so that we're basically holding their feet to the fire.
There was a guy named Doug Franks who came to me and brought this issue to my radar. He testified, I think, at all the committee hearings. His mother's in Pensacola. They voluntarily got her a guardian, and now they can't undo it. Do you address that at all?
Yes, because one of the things that we are making it clear is that, first of all, when you have a guardian appointed, the appointment is only for what the ward needs. It doesn't have to be a complete guardianship, because there are some people that are disabled, but mentally they're competent. You don't need to take away their decision-making ability if you're going to appoint a guardian to handle their medical issues. So that's one thing. And secondly, we're asking the courts to give preference in terms of hearing time and the like to those cases where we're trying to terminate a guardianship. We also give the family a lot more ability to intervene in guardianship matters.
The new law also puts restrictions on judges appointing guardians. Franks has tried to get the courts to reopen his mother's case without luck.
In Mr. Frank's case, we are hopeful that he can go to the court and say, I object to what's going on here, and that the courts, based upon the new statute, will hear him out.
Even supporters say the legislation signed by the governor only solves half the problem. State Senator Nancy Dietert had legislation that would have licensed public for-profit guardians. It came close but didn't pass.
I'm very happy that Representative Pasadomo's bill passed. It's a key piece to an overall puzzle that solves a huge problem in the state of Florida. My bill was also a key piece. Her bill deals with the court system. My bill actually dealt with oversight and regulation of these unscrupulous guardians. So without my bill passing, we still have unscrupulous guardians out there.
With no regulation?
Right, and we came very close to passing this bill. We had a problem with the House members seeing the beauty of it, but that'll be the first bill I file in January because it still needs to be done. So I'm happy that we were able to get something done. Something's better than nothing, but we need the second piece to the puzzle.
And what will your second piece to the puzzle solve? What will it do?
Well, right now we only regulate public guardians. This would regulate public and private guardians. And private guardians is a growth industry. There used to be 23 of them, and now there's 450. And they're popping up all over the state of Florida. And nobody's regulating what they do, and they can take your mail, take your money, be in charge of your health care, cut you off from your relatives, and there's nobody that can say they can't do it. That needs to be fixed.
Now, Pasademo's bill potentially will allow people like Doug Franks who are being cut off from their mother to go into court again.
Right. Hers, since she is an attorney, most of her bill deals with the flaws in the judicial system when it comes to guardians. And so, thank goodness she was able to do that and get it done. Needed to be done, but there's other parts that need to be done just to protect citizens.
But for the next year, public for-profit guardians will remain unregulated. Nancy Dietert's advice, families beware.